Dawn, southern African savanna, late dry season. The first light does not break. It diffuses. A pale glow stretches across a horizon blurred by dust and distant heat. The land bears the fatigue of months without rain. Grasses, once dense and green, now stand brittle and colorless, their dry stems rasping softly against one another as a faint wind moves through. The air carries a mixture of earth, ash, and the fading scent of animals that cross these plains under cover of darkness. Silence dominates, but it is not absence. It is tension held in place. Near a scatter of low acacia, movement begins to take shape. A pack of African wild dogs advances at a measured pace. Their bodies lean from constant exertion. Their coats irregular, patches of black, ochre, and white disrupting their form against a fractured landscape. Large, rounded ears pivot with precision, capturing the smallest disturbances in the distance. They do not rush. They do not need to. Across the open ground, a herd of Impala stands clustered. Heads are raised. Muscles tighten beneath their skin. Individuals shift subtly, aligning themselves with the group center. The distance between predator and prey remains significant, but awareness has already closed the gap. There is no signal, no sudden charge, only the quiet arrangement of forces, movement guided by instinct, by memory, by necessity. The wind turns slightly, and in that imperceptible shift, the morning begins to change. The African wild dog, Lycaon pictus, occupies a narrow ecological space shaped by endurance, cooperation, and precision. Unlike solitary predators, it exists as part of a tightly coordinated social unit, where survival is not defined by individual strength, but by collective efficiency. Its body reflects this specialization. Long limbs increase stride length and reduce energy expenditure over distance. A deep chest houses a cardiovascular system adapted for sustained exertion, allowing the animal to maintain high speeds across several kilometers without collapse. Even its dentition differs from other canids. Premolars enlarge the sheer flesh quickly, minimizing the time spent at a kill site where competition from larger predators is inevitable. Its habitat stretches across fragmented regions of sub-Saharan Africa, most prominently in semi-arid savannas and open woodlands. These environments impose a consistent pressure. Visibility is high, cover is limited, and prey species are highly vigilant. In such terrain, ambush is unreliable. Instead, success depends on persistence. The wild dog strategy is not concealment, but attrition, testing the limits of its prey's endurance until weakness reveals itself. The prey species most often targeted, impala, gazelle, and occasionally young wildebeest, have evolved under equally intense pressure. Their bodies are built for acceleration and agility. Elastic tendons store and release energy efficiently, enabling rapid directional changes that can disrupt the predator's trajectory. Large eyes positioned laterally provide a wide field of vision, allowing detection of threats across open ground. Within the herd, vigilance is distributed. No single individual watches constantly. Instead, awareness rotates, reducing fatigue while maintaining near-continuous surveillance. This dynamic, endurance versus evasion, forms a balance refined over thousands of generations. Studies conducted in ecosystems such as the Okavango Delta and Kruger National Park have shown that African wild dogs achieve hunting success rates exceeding 70%, significantly higher than most large carnivores. This efficiency is not a result of speed alone, but coordination. Packs communicate through subtle changes in posture and direction, adjusting in real time as prey attempts to break formation. Environmental conditions further shape these interactions. During the dry season, water sources contract, concentrating herbivores into predictable areas. This increases encounter rates, but also intensifies competition. Lions and spotted hyenas, both dominant predators, frequently displace wild dogs from their kills. As a result, the dogs must consume quickly, often within minutes, reinforcing the need for rapid, decisive hunts. Thermoregulation also plays a critical role. Unlike ambush predators that rely on short bursts of energy, wild dogs often hunt during the cooler hours of early morning and late afternoon. Their large, vascularized ears assist in dissipating heat, preventing overheating during prolonged chases. Even so, hunts are calculated. Packs may travel several kilometers before initiating pursuit, selecting conditions where wind direction, terrain, and herd structure offer the highest probability of success. Within the pack, hierarchy exists but functions differently from many social carnivores. A dominant breeding pair leads, yet cooperation extends beyond reproduction. Injured individuals are often fed by others. Pups, once born, become the central priority of the group, with hunts organized around their nutritional needs. This social cohesion directly influences hunting behavior. Decisions are not made for individual gain, but for the survival of the collective. In contrast, the prey operates on a principle of risk distribution. When a chase begins, the herd fragments. Each individual relies on speed, agility, and unpredictability. There is no coordinated defense against a pack that can adapt mid-pursuit. Instead, survival depends on becoming the least vulnerable target, maintaining stamina, avoiding missteps, and exploiting any momentary lapse in the predator's formation. This interaction is not static. It shifts continuously, shaped by terrain, weather, group size, and the physical condition of both hunter and hunted. What appears as a simple chase is, in reality, a layered exchange of biological limits, each side testing the boundaries of its own design. The relationship between African wild dogs and their prey is not merely behavioral. It is evolutionary, shaped over long periods of environmental instability and shifting ecosystems. Fossil evidence and genetic studies suggest that Lycaon pictus diverged from other canids over 1 million years ago, adapting to a niche that few predators occupy. The role of a highly specialized, cursorial hunter depended on cooperation rather than ambush. This divergence is reflected not only in anatomy, but in neurological and social complexity. The coordination observed during hunts is not improvised. It is a result of deeply embedded behavioral patterns reinforced across generations. In ecosystems such as the Serengeti and the woodlands of southern Africa, predator-prey dynamics are influenced by seasonal cycles that restructure the landscape itself. During wetter months, prey species disperse widely as vegetation becomes abundant. Visibility decreases, and herds are less concentrated, reducing encounter rates. For wild dogs, this requires greater travel distances and increased energy expenditure with uncertain returns. In contrast, the dry season compresses life into smaller, predictable zones. Waterholes and remaining patches of vegetation become focal points, intensifying interactions between species. The cyclical compression and expansion create fluctuating pressures that continuously test both predator and prey. Research tracking wild dog packs with GPS collars has revealed patterns of decision-making that reflect energy economics. Hunts are not initiated randomly. Packs often assess herd size, composition, and movement before committing. Larger herds may offer more opportunities for isolating a weaker individual, but they also increase the complexity of pursuit. Conversely, smaller groups may be easier to manage, but offer fewer chances to exploit vulnerability. Age and condition of prey are critical variables. Juveniles, older individuals, or those with slight injuries are disproportionately targeted, not through conscious selection, but through the natural unfolding of the chase, where even minor disadvantages become amplified over distance. Prey species, in turn, exhibit adaptive responses that extend beyond physical traits. Behavioral studies of Impala and gazelle show that herd positioning is dynamic. Individuals on the periphery face higher risk, yet must rotate inward periodically to feed. This constant shifting creates moments of exposure, brief lapses where an individual is slightly misaligned or slower to react. These moments are often imperceptible to human observers, but within the context of a coordinated pack, they are sufficient. The concept of confusion effect plays a significant role in these interactions. When a herd moves as a cohesive unit, the overlapping motion of multiple bodies can disrupt the predator's ability to focus on a single target. However, wild dogs counter this through division of roles during the chase. Some individuals maintain direct pursuit, while others anticipate directional changes, effectively narrowing escape routes. This fluid positioning reduces the effectiveness of erratic movement, gradually isolating a single animal from the group. Competition adds another layer of pressure. Lions, with their strength and dominance, often appropriate kills made by wild dogs. Spotted hyenas, highly intelligent and socially complex in their own right, can track and displace hunting packs. These interactions impose strict time constraints. Once a hunt begins, it must end quickly, not only to secure food, but to consume it before it is lost. Observational data indicates that wild dogs can reduce a medium-sized prey animal to little more than skeletal remains in under 15 minutes, a speed unmatched by most large carnivores. Disease has also played a significant role in shaping wild dog populations. Rabies and canine distemper, often transmitted from domestic animals at the edges of human expansion, have caused dramatic declines in certain regions. This vulnerability has led to fragmented populations, making each pack's survival even more precarious. Conservation studies emphasize that the loss of even a few individuals can destabilize the social structure, reducing hunting efficiency and increasing mortality rates. Despite these challenges, African wild dogs remain one of the most efficient predators in their environment. Their success is not defined by dominance, but by precision, an alignment of physiology, behavior, and cooperation finely tuned to the demands of open landscapes. Opposing them are prey species equally refined, whose survival depends on constant vigilance, rapid response, and the ability to exploit even the smallest opportunity to escape. Between them exists no resolution, only continuation, a system maintained not by balance in the sense of equality, but by constant adjustment, where each encounter reshapes the next. The hunt begins long before the first movement toward prey. Within the pack, a subtle shift occurs, an increase in alertness, a tightening of formation. African wild dogs do not rely on sudden decisions. Their behavior reflects a continuous assessment of conditions, wind direction, temperature, terrain, and the faint signals carried across distance. Ears rotate, bodies align, and individuals adjust their space without overt communication. This is coordination without visible command, a system refined through repetition rather than instruction. Endurance defines their strategy. Unlike ambush predators that depend on proximity and explosive force, wild dogs commit to distance. Once a target is identified, the chase unfolds in phases. The initial acceleration is controlled, designed not to exhaust but to provoke reaction. Prey scatter, and in that fragmentation, the pack begins its work. Individuals spread laterally, anticipating escape routes, narrowing the space in which the prey can maneuver. The objective is not immediate capture, but gradual isolation. Physiologically, this approach exploits a fundamental limitation in prey species. Animals like Impala are built for rapid acceleration and sharp directional changes, but these movements come at a cost. Anaerobic bursts produce energy quickly, yet cannot be sustained. Wild dogs, by contrast, operate within an aerobic threshold for much of the chase, allowing them to maintain pressure over extended distances. As seconds stretch into minutes, the imbalance becomes evident. The prey's movements grow less precise. Turns widen. Recovery between leaps slows. Within the pack, roles are fluid. There is no fixed leader directing the pursuit. Instead, individuals respond to the evolving position of the prey. A dog falling behind may angle outward, rejoining the chase ahead. Another may close distance directly, forcing the prey to change direction. This constant reconfiguration creates a dynamic boundary around the target, limiting its options without requiring full encirclement. It is a system that adapts in real time, shaped by instinct and reinforced by collective experience. The prey's response is equally complex. At the onset of pursuit, the herd relies on confusion, rapid, overlapping movements that obscure individual trajectories. For a brief moment, this can disrupt the predator's focus. But as the chase continues, cohesion breaks down. Each individual begins to prioritize its own survival, and the protective effect of the group diminishes. The targeted animal, once identified, must rely solely on its physical capacity and immediate decision-making. Terrain plays a decisive role. Open ground favors the endurance of the wild dogs, while uneven or densely vegetated areas offer the prey opportunities to disrupt pursuit. A sudden change in elevation, a patch of thicker brush, or even a slight variation in soil can alter footing. The prey may attempt abrupt directional shifts, aiming to exploit these features. In response, the pack adjusts, redistributing its members to maintain pressure while avoiding overextension. This is not a contest of speed alone. It is a progressive narrowing of possibilities. Each stride, each turn, reduces a range of viable escape paths. The prey is not overwhelmed instantly, but gradually constrained, its options diminished by the collective movement of the pack. There is no pause once the process begins, only continuation, driven by the biological necessity that underlies every decision. As the pursuit unfolds, another layer of strategy becomes visible, one defined not by speed or endurance alone, but by anticipation. African wild dogs do not simply follow, they predict. Observational studies have documented individuals breaking from direct pursuit to intercept, moving diagonally across the projected path of the fleeing animal. This behavior reduces the total distance required to close the gap, conserving energy while increasing pressure on the prey. It is not planned in the human sense, but reflects an evolved sensitivity to motion, trajectory, and timing. This predictive movement is particularly effective against species that rely on erratic escape patterns. Impala, for example, employs sudden leaps and sharp turns, often changing direction multiple times within seconds. These maneuvers can disrupt a single pursuer, but against a coordinated pack, they become less effective. Each deviation in direction is met by a corresponding adjustment from one or more dogs, gradually aligning the predator's path with that of the prey. Over time, unpredictability loses its advantage. Within the pack, social cohesion continues to influence behavior during the hunt. Individuals remain aware of one another's positions, avoiding collisions and maintaining spacing that maximizes coverage. Vocalizations are minimal, often limited to brief contact calls that reinforce coordination without revealing position to competitors. The structure is flexible, but not chaotic. It operates within boundaries shaped by shared experience and instinctive responses. At the same time, the prey's physiological limits begin to assert themselves more clearly. As oxygen demand increases, the body shifts further into anaerobic metabolism. Lactic acid accumulates within muscle tissue, reducing efficiency and increasing fatigue. Breathing becomes more rapid, less controlled. Small miscalculations, slight delays in turning, minor slips in footing start to appear. These are not dramatic failures, but incremental losses of precision that accumulate over the duration of the chase. Predation here is not driven by aggression, but by inevitability. The pack does not escalate force. It sustains pressure. The distance between predator and prey contracts gradually, often over hundreds of meters. When contact is finally made, it is rarely a single decisive moment. Instead, multiple individuals converge, each contributing to the restraint of the prey. The process is rapid, minimizing struggle and reducing the risk of injury to the pack. Beyond the immediate interaction, the broader ecological context remains present. Other predators monitor these events, often from a distance. Vultures circle higher above, responding to visual cues of movement and the possibility of a kill. Hyenas, with their acute sense of hearing and smell, may begin converge long before the outcome is decided. This looming competition reinforces the need for efficiency, not only in capture, but in consumption. There is no excess in this system. Every movement serves a function, shaped by the constraint of energy, risk, and time. The wild dogs do not dominate their environment. They navigate it with precision, exploiting opportunities as they arise. The prey, in turn, resists through speed, awareness, and the constant effort to remain just beyond reach. Between them, the outcome is never guaranteed, only influenced. The distance has narrowed to less than 50 meters. What began as scattered motion across open ground has resolved into a single line of pursuit. The herd is no longer a unified mass. It is fractured, leaving behind one individual, an adult impala, still strong, but now separated by a margin too wide to recover. Its stride remains powerful, but the rhythm has changed. Each bound is fractionally lower, each landing heavier than the last. Behind it, the pack tightens. The leading dogs do not sprint at full capacity. They maintain a controlled pace, conserving the final reserve of energy needed for contact. Flanking individuals angle inward, reducing lateral escape. The formation is not rigid, but it is closing, compressing the available space into a narrowing corridor. The impala attempts a sharp turn. For a moment, it gains distance. Its body pivots with precision, hooves striking the dry ground and sending dust into the air. But the maneuver comes at a cost. The abrupt change forces a surge of exertion, drawing further on already strained muscles. Within seconds, one of the pursuing dogs is adjusted, cutting across the arc of the turn, restoring pressure from the side. Breathing becomes audible now, short, rapid bursts force through open mouths. The Impala's head dips slightly with each stride, a subtle indication of fatigue. Its movements remain coordinated, but the margin for error has diminished. A slight misstep, a delayed reaction, either would be enough. The pack senses this shift, not through conscious recognition, but through the unfolding pattern of movement. The distance closes further, 30 meters. One dog accelerates, breaking from the sustained pace. It does not aim directly for the hind legs, but for position, forcing the Impala to veer once more. Another follows, approaching from a different angle, narrowing the forward path. The prey is no longer choosing direction freely. It is reacting, constrained by the advancing geometry of the pack. The ground changes subtly, firmer soil giving way to a patch of loose dust. The Impala's footing slips for a fraction of a second. It recovers immediately, but the interruption is enough. 20 meters. The leading dog lunges, not to seize, but to disrupt. Its presence forces a final adjustment in the Impala's stride. The rhythm breaks. Momentum falters. In that moment, the rest of the pack arrives. There is no dramatic collision, no prolonged struggle. Multiple bodies converge with precision, each movement directed toward restraint. The Impala attempts one last acceleration, but the effort is incomplete. Its strength, though considerable, has been reduced incrementally over the course of the chase. Within seconds, the outcome is decided. The motion that once defined the open plain comes to an abrupt end. Dust settles slowly back to the ground. But the hunt is not yet finished. The moment of capture transitions almost immediately into consumption. There is no pause between phases. The same efficiency that governed the pursuit now defines what follows. The pack closes tightly around a fallen Impala, each individual positioning itself with minimal conflict. There is no prolonged contest within the group. Hierarchy exists, but it does not delay feeding. Time is the primary constraint. The first bites are directed toward the softer regions of the body. The hide is breached quickly, an adaptation of dentition that allows rapid access to muscle and internal tissue. Within seconds, the structure of the prey begins to change, its form giving way under coordinated tearing forces. The process is systematic, though not ordered in any visible sequence. Each individual feeds where access is available, adjusting position continuously as space opens and closes. The speed is striking. What would take larger predators extended periods is reduced here to minutes. Flesh is removed in strips, consumed almost immediately, minimizing the need for prolonged handling. Bones begin to emerge through diminishing layers of tissue. The Impala's mass, once defined by motion and resistance, is now converted into energy, redistributed across the pack. Throughout this process, vigilance remains constant. Several individuals lift their heads intermittently, scanning the surrounding terrain. Ears pivot outward, tracking distant sounds carried on the wind. The open savanna offers little concealment, and the signals of a kill, movement, scent, the presence of feeding animals, travel quickly. Above, the first vultures begin to descend in widening circles, their silhouettes marking the event from a distance. Their arrival is not a threat in itself, but an indicator. Other predators may follow. The pack accelerates its consumption. Internal organs, rich in nutrients, are accessed early. These provide immediate energy returns, critical after the sustained exertion of the chase. Smaller fragments are swallowed with minimal processing. There is no attempt to preserve or guard the carcass beyond the immediate moment. The strategy is not defense, but completion, extracting as much as possible before interruption. On the periphery, subtle shifts in posture signal awareness of potential competitors. A distant movement, barely perceptible, causes a brief tightening within the group. Feeding continues, but with increased urgency. Should a larger predator approach, resistance would be limited. The wild dog's advantage lies in speed, not confrontation. Within 10 to 15 minutes, the transformation is nearly complete. Where there was once a fully intact animal, there now remains little beyond skeletal structure and scattered remnants. The ground is marked by disturbed soil and the fading imprint of movement. The pack begins to withdraw gradually, individuals moving away in different directions before reassembling at a short distance. There is no lingering. The energy gained must now be conserved, distributed, and for some members of the pack, carried back indirectly. Regurgitation will later provide for those unable to participate in the hunt, pups, injured individuals, or those that remain behind. The outcome of this event extends beyond the immediate participants. Behind them, the scavengers arrive. The system continues. The savanna returns to motion, but not to stillness. What remains of the hunt is already being rewritten by the ecosystem itself. The scent of blood disperses slowly through the dry air, carried in thin, shifting currents that move across the grassland. It is enough. Within minutes, the first vultures commit fully to descent, their wings cutting silent arcs through the sky as they approach the site. On the ground, distant movement gathers, hyenas adjusting their paths, responding to signals that travel faster than sight. The African wild dog pack does not remain long. Their bodies carry the immediate consequence of the chase: elevated respiration, depleted glycogen stores, and muscular fatigue accumulated over sustained distance. Yet there is no collapse, no hesitation. Movement resumes quickly, transitioning from the intensity of the hunt into the controlled rhythm of departure. This shift is essential. In open ecosystems, lingering is risk. As the pack moves away, the social structure remains intact but subtly altered by the outcome. Individuals that participated directly in the final stages of the chase often feed first in hierarchical order, yet sharing behavior persists throughout. Food is redistributed through regurgitation, a mechanism observed widely in Lycae and Pictus and critical for the survival of juveniles and non-participating members. This process reinforces cohesion beyond the immediate event, ensuring that energy gained is not confined to a single location or moment. At the kill site, ecological turnover begins almost immediately. Vultures descend first, their arrival rapid but cautious, testing for dominant scavengers already in proximity. Their role is not dominance but efficiency, stripping soft tissue that remains exposed. Hyenas, if present nearby, often approach in groups, their social organization allowing them to challenge or displace other scavengers depending on numbers. The remains of the Impala become a shared resource, redistributed through competitive interaction. This sequence is not incidental. It is a structured component of the ecosystem's energy flow. In savanna environments, no large vertebrate carcass remains unutilized for long. Within hours, the majority of soft tissue may be removed, and within a day or two, only fragments will remain. Bone fragments are carried off by smaller scavengers, decomposed by insects, or broken down further by environmental exposure and microbial activity. For the wild dogs, the outcome of the hunt influences more than immediate nutrition. It affects future movement patterns, resting intervals, and territorial behavior. A successful hunt allows for reduced travel in the short term, but does not eliminate the need for continued mobility. In fact, the presence of larger predators in the region often forces packs to relocate frequently, preventing prolonged settlement in a single area. Mortality risk remains constant even after success. Injured individuals from the chase, if any exist, face heightened vulnerability, as even minor impairments can reduce hunting efficiency in subsequent days. Conservation studies have shown that pack stability is strongly linked to survival of key adult members. The loss of a single experienced hunter can significantly reduce coordination effectiveness, altering success rates in future pursuits. Across the landscape, herbivore behavior subtly shifts following such events. Herds increase vigilance in areas where predation has recently occurred. Movement patterns adjust, sometimes avoiding open corridors temporarily. These changes are not conscious memory in a human sense, but learned survival responses embedded through repeated exposure to risk. The savanna, therefore, does not reset. It recalibrates. As distance increases from the kill site, the African wild dog pack settles back into a quieter rhythm of existence, though quiet, in this context, is never truly absence. It is movement reduced to efficiency. It is vigilance compressed into posture, spacing, and direction. The successful hunt leaves measurable physiological consequences. Elevated body temperatures gradually decline as the dogs travel, aided by their large, highly vascularized ears that assist in heat dissipation. Respiratory rates normalize, but metabolic recovery is not immediate. Muscle fibers retain micro-level damage from sustained exertion, and energy reserves, particularly glycogen, must be rebuilt through feeding and rest cycles over time. In the hours following a kill, pack cohesion becomes especially visible. Individuals that fed at the site carry energy not only for themselves but for the group. Regurgitated food is delivered to pups and subordinate members, a behavior that functions as both nutritional transfer and social reinforcement. This mechanism is critical in wild dog ecology. It ensures that hunting success is distributed across the entire social structure, not limited to those physically present at the kill. Studies in long-term monitored populations have shown that pup survival rates are closely linked to the frequency and quality of these post-hunt transfers. Yet the consequences of the hunt extend beyond nutrition. Each successful chase subtly reinforces learned spatial intelligence within the pack. Individuals refine their understanding of terrain, prey escape patterns, and coordination timing. Over repeated hunts, this creates a form of collective memory, not stored in any single individual, but distributed across the group's behavior. Packs that maintain stability over time develop increasingly efficient hunting strategies, often adjusting their approach based on prior outcomes in similar landscapes. However, success also attracts risk. The scent trail left behind by a kill does not dissipate immediately. It lingers in the warm air, detectable over long distances by olfactory-sensitive scavengers. Hyenas, capable of covering vast distances while tracking scent gradients, may converge hours after the event. Even lions, whose territorial ranges overlap with wild dog movement corridors, may respond if opportunity aligns with proximity. As a result, wild dog packs often avoid remaining near kill sites, a behavioral adaptation shaped by repeated loss of food to dominant competitors. This pressure creates a cascading effect on movement patterns. Instead of establishing fixed feeding territories, wild dogs operate within large, fluid home ranges. Their travel is not random but influenced by prey density, competition risk, and previous scavenger encounters. In regions with high lion density, packs may shift their hunting times or relocate more frequently, trading energy efficiency for safety. For the impala population, the event becomes part of a broader ecological pattern rather than an isolated loss. Predation pressure maintains herd vigilance and influences reproductive strategies over generations. Individuals that survive repeated encounters contribute to a gene pool shaped by selection for alertness, endurance, and rapid responsiveness. In this way, even a single chase becomes part of a long evolutionary feedback loop. Scavenger species, too, experience cascading effects. A successful wild dog kill represents not only immediate food, but also a redistribution of energy across trophic levels. Vultures that feed gain resources for long-distance flight and reproduction. Hyenas that arrive later may benefit from remaining fragments or displace smaller scavengers, reinforcing their own dominance hierarchy. Even insects contribute to the breakdown process, accelerating nutrient return to the soil. By the time the sun begins its ascent, the physical evidence of the hunt is already fading. What remains is not the event itself, but its impact, spread across organisms, behaviors, and future decisions. Nothing in the system remains unchanged, but nothing is preserved either. The savanna does not remember in the way living minds do. There is no record of the chase held in a single place, no permanent imprint of pursuit or escape. Instead, what remains is distributed across breath, muscle, movement, and instinct. The African wild dog pack continues forward, carrying within its behavior the accumulated outcomes of countless hunts like this one, each shaping the next without leaving a fixed trace. For the impala population, the encounter becomes part of an inherited awareness, expressed not as thought, but as readiness, a tightening of posture at distant movement, a collective vigilance that rises and falls with the rhythm of the land. Survival here is not certainty. It is probability, continuously adjusted by experience. Nothing in this system is final, not victory, not loss, not even balance. The wild dogs will hunt again. The prey will run again. And between them, the landscape will continue to function as it always has, through pressure, adaptation, and constant change. Nature does not assign meaning to these outcomes. It only allows them to continue.